Welcome to the NancoVerse podcast, where we discuss what's happening in this universe of ours through my lens, my voice, and my mic. I want to start today's podcast with a tribute to the great and unfortunately late, great, reiterating, Lata Mangeshkar. Man, Lata Mangeshkar has been a household name for many decades throughout India, and we lost her. She was 92 years old when she passed away, and she has sung some really memorable, legendary songs. But one that really hits home with a lot of Indians, and not just Indians, but actually a lot of people who are big fans of Lata Mangeshkar, and even if you're not. The song "Ae Mere Watan Ke Logo." I would want to play this for the listeners. It is such a heartfelt song. We miss you, ma'am. Logo, तुम खूब लगा लो नारा, ये शुभ दिन है हम सबका, लहरा लो तिरंगा प्यारा, पर मत भूलो सीमा पर वीरों ने है प्राण गवाए, कुछ याद उन्हें भी कर लो, कुछ याद उन्हें भी कर लो. My God, goosebumps. Thank you so much, ma'am.
मेरे वतन के लोगों, जरा आँख में भर लो पानी, जो शहीद हुए हैं उनकी जरा याद करो कुर्बानी. मेरे वतन के लोगों, जरा आँख में भर लो पानी, जो शहीद हुए हैं उनकी जरा याद करो कुर्बानी. तुम भूल न जाओ उनको, इसलिए सुनो ये कहानी, जो शहीद हुए हैं उनकी जरा याद करो कुर्बानी.
What a legendary voice. What a legendary.
जब तक थी सांस लड़े वो, जब तक थी सांस लड़े वो, फिर अपनी लाश बिछा दी, संगीन पे धर कर माथा, सो गए अमर बलिदानी, जो शहीद हुए हैं उनकी जरा याद करो कुर्बानी. जब देश में थी दिवाली, वो खेल रहे थे होली, जब हम बैठे थे घरों में, जब हम बैठे थे घरों में, वो झेल रहे थे गोली. थे धन्य जवान वो अपने, थी धन्य वो उनकी जवानी, जो शहीद हुए हैं उनकी जरा याद करो कुर्बानी.
big salute to all the martyrs.
कोई सिख कोई जाट मराठा, कोई सिख कोई जाट मराठा, कोई गुरखा कोई मदरासी, कोई गुरखा कोई मदरासी, सरहद पर मरने वाला, सरहद पर मरने वाला, हर वीर था भारतवासी, जो खून गिरा पर्वत पर, वो खून था हिंदुस्तानी, जो शहीद हुए हैं उनकी जरा याद करो कुर्बानी।
I think we all have goosebumps.
थी खून से लथपथ काया, फिर भी बंदूक उठा के, 10-10 को एक ने मारा, फिर गिर गए होश गवा के, जब अंत समय आया तो जब अंत समय आया तो कह गए कि अब मरते हैं, खुश रहना देश के प्यारों, खुश रहना देश के प्यारों, अब हम तो सफर करते हैं, अब हम तो सफर करते हैं। क्या लोग थे वो दीवाने, क्या लोग थे वो अभिमानी,
जो शहीद
हुए हैं उनकी जरा याद करो कुर्बानी। तुम भूल न जाओ उनको, इसलिए कही ये कहानी, जो शहीद हुए हैं उनकी जरा याद करो कुर्बानी। जय हिंद जय हिंद जय हिंद की सेना,
जय हिंद जय हिंद जय हिंद जय हिंद की सेना। Lata Mangeshkar, the legendary singer, beloved of countless Indians across 4 generations or more, was cremated at 7:14 p.m. with full state honours in the presence of her family, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Maharashtra Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray, and thousands of Mumbai residents who thronged Shivaji Park to pay their last respects. Mangeshkar, Lata Mangeshkar ma'am, 92, died on Sunday morning at 8:12 a.m. at Mumbai's Breach Candy Hospital following post-COVID complications. Lata ma'am lives on. She was the voice of India's beating heart, young and old, broken and united. One of the country's most towering cultural icons, whose singing moved generations since independence, was so impossibly prolific that she was able to do what artists rarely can. From the hymn to the love song, an entire nation in prayer to an individual heartbroken, she was the voice of their music that struck chords, both perfect and popular, an astounding blend unmatched in Hindi film music to this day. And this song in particular is one that I have grown up with. Being my parents, both my parents were in the army, my mother and my father, and it is quite heart trembling, like gut wrenching whenever you think about all the soldiers who have lain their lives for the independence, for maintaining the independence of this country. And while I speak about this, my voice shakes a little bit because it is very easy for us to sit in cities and, you know, enjoy our freedom and not really think about what the soldiers are going through in the borders, on the borders. But I really want to thank each and every Jawan, each and every officer, each and every BSF soldier, BRO officer, Jawan, everybody who is out there on the borders or even in peace areas, like everybody in law enforcement. Thank you so much for maintaining the independence of this nation. And a cultural icon like Lata Mangeshkar, we have lost her, but her legacy will live on, and so will this podcast move on from this. But we will definitely come back to her, and I would love to read some of the editorials that have been written about her. And yeah, moving on. There is finally good news on the front that we were talking about on the previous podcast about the salary strike of East Delhi MCD run hospitals. The strike by the medical staff and doctors at the East Delhi Municipal Corporation Swami Dayanand Hospital, who had been protesting against salary delays for the past 6 days, ended on Sunday. So this Sunday marked the end of that protest, and apparently some of the demands of the officers have been met. Their demands would be considered, is what it says. A senior official of the East MCD said a meeting was held with the union officials of Group A, B, C, and D employees, and it was conveyed to them that if they return to work, then no disciplinary action would be taken against anyone, and their demands would be considered. Post this, the official said the unions decided that the strike should be ended immediately and staff returned to work. Emergency services at the hospital have resumed, while the OPDs will begin functioning from Monday. This is a good sign because at least the strike has ended and emergency services have resumed, which is important for patients, man, because at the end of the day, a hospital should be able to function and the people who work there should be paid. So the good sign is that at least their demands are being heard, and I hope that they're paid. Several resident doctors, nurses, and paramedical staff at the hospital went on strike on Tuesday against non payment of salaries. They abstained from work and raised slogans on the premises. The Resident Doctors Association of the hospital had written a letter to the medical superintendent stating that their salaries are pending despite many assurances from the EDMC, which is the East Delhi Municipal Corporation. EDMC Commissioner Vikas Anand had said that they would be given their salaries for February and March on time. Also, their due arrears will be paid in month of May as per the availability of the funds. Availability of funds. I wonder where the money goes sometimes. But it's a good sign that the doctors are being heard, the sanitation workers are being heard, and hopefully their salaries are paid on time. And I'm happy to read this, to be honest, because I think this is a very important news that needs to be tracked, and no hospital should go through a situation like this because at the end of the day, it's the taxpayers that have to face the brunt of the inefficiency of use of money of corporations. So I really hope that such a situation is not such a situation does not occur again. There's this other news that I came across in the newspaper which really blows my mind away, and it says that these people are this person's friend, but I really don't think a friend would do this to a friend. So I don't know, that maybe they should change this. To give a little bit of context, the headline reads, MBA student attempts suicide over blackmail. A 26-year-old MBA student attempted to commit suicide at his home in Southwest District as he was allegedly being blackmailed by his friends. Police said his friends allegedly took his private photos without his consent and were trying to extort money from him. I don't know why I should be laughing at this, but I really don't think this is funny, and I do not think that these people are his friends. One should be very careful of who you call a friend. A case has been registered against them, but no arrests have been made yet. A lot of time, the case with these stories is that the full story is not really out, and we don't really know the cause behind this person's actions. But at face value, I think it is very important to understand that such an action would not be taken by people that you can call friends. A friend would not try and extort money from you. Yeah. The incident took place on Saturday when the man's family found him lying unconscious in his room. He was rushed to Ames where he is undergoing treatment. In a purported note, he wrote, "Please tell police that I'm not a liar. Please punish them after my death." His family claimed he was being harassed for months and police didn't act on his complaint, which is always the case somehow, and that is extremely sad. And I really hope this guy gets better soon. But I had to like read this news out because only because of the fact that a lot of people call people around them their friends, but friends have to be chosen with a lot of filtration. You have to make sure that the people that you call your friends are actually your friends and they're not people who are trying to bring you down or trying to extort money from you, which completely blows my mind away. Yeah, these people are not really his friends. And I hope any of the listeners who are listening to this and they have people around them who are trying to really derail the stability of their lives, make sure that you cut those people off from your life because some people are not worthy of being called friends. So be careful of who you call your friend. Moving on from city news straight to international news. Something extremely catastrophic, potentially catastrophic, is happening in the Ukraine, USA, Russia situation. One of the top Biden aides says that Ukraine invasion could come any day. Ukraine has been complaining of United States being a little bit of a warmonger. They're probably thinking that they're perpetuating the the fears of a Russian invasion. But sometimes these fears could be true. So the article reads from the New York Times. It says White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said on Sunday that Russia could invade Ukraine any day. Damn. Launching a conflict that would come at an enormous human cost. If war breaks out, it will come at an enormous human cost to Ukraine. But we believe that based on our preparations and our response, it will come at a strategic cost to Russia as well. Damn man, this is some like shoulder bumping going on over here. Senior Biden administration officials told lawmakers this past week that they believed that Russian military had assembled 70% of the forces it would need to mount a full invasion of Ukraine, painting the most ominous picture yet of the options that Russian President Vladimir Putin has created for himself in recent weeks. During 6 hours of closed meetings with House and Senate lawmakers on Thursday, the officials warned that if Putin chose the most aggressive of his options, he could quickly surround or capture Kiev, the capital, and remove the country's democratically elected president, Volodymyr Zelensky. They also warned that the invasion could prompt an enormous refugee crisis on the European continent, sending millions fleeing. The officials stressed that the US intelligence analysts still did not assess that Putin had made a final decision to invade, but satellite imagery, communications among Russian forces, and images of Russian equipment on the move show that he has assembled everything he would need to undertake what the officials said would constitute the largest military operation on land in Europe since 1945. This is extremely scary because this really sets the stage for a full blown war that could happen anytime, according to the United States. They also warned of enormous possible human costs if Putin went ahead with a full invasion, including the potential deaths of 25,000 to 50,000 civilians, 5,000 to 25,000 members of the Ukrainian military, and 3,000 to 10,000 members of the Russian military. The invasion, they said, could also result in 1 million to 5 million refugees, with many of them pouring into Poland. Should Putin decide to invade, American officials believe he is not likely to move until the second half of February. By that point, more ground will have frozen, making it easier to move. By that point, more ground will have frozen, making it easier to move heavy vehicles and equipment. And the Winter Olympics in Beijing will have ended or be winding down, which could help Putin avoid antagonizing President Xi Jinping of China, a critical ally of the Russian president. Late Saturday, after briefings became public, Russia's deputy ambassador to the UN, Dmitry Polensky, denounced the assessment. Madness and scaremongering countries. Madness and scaremongering continues, Polensky wrote on Twitter. What if we would say that the US could seize London in a week and cause 300,000 civilian deaths? All this based on our intelligence sources that we won't disclose. Would it feel right for Americans and Brits? It's as wrong for Russians and Ukrainians. Whether Putin decides to go through with a maximalist approach or a more scaled down version is the question with which American, European, and Ukrainian officials are all grappling. Man, this is such a big international mess that's happening in Europe, between Europe and USA and Russia and Ukraine. All of these countries are really like at each other's heads. Russia is saying that United States is being a warmonger. United States is saying that Russia is going to invade Ukraine, and Ukraine in the middle of all this is just like, bro, give me some space. My economy is tumbling. My people are scared, and nobody really knows what the future holds. And China sitting on the side is just smiling and being all happy, doing its winter games, giving the giving the torch bearer to the soldier who was involved in the Galwan incident. We discussed this in the previous podcast. This is extremely disturbing, and China, I think, is just so happy with this entire situation because they they anyway hold the key to the supply chain of the entire world. Most of the manufacturing happens in China, and China and Russia are allies. So if a war does break out, China would take Russia's side, and if that happens, then Russia and China together are bigger than the United States, at least economically speaking. And United States is kind of, on the decline when it comes to their hegemony. And yeah, God only knows what's going to happen in this situation in the future. But I really, really, really hope that these assessments made by the United States are based on nothing, and there is not going to be an invasion. But who knows, dude? Ukraine is extremely vulnerable at this point, and they sit right next to Russia, and Russia has already taken Crimea. I think a lot of people know about this. The Crimean island. It's an island or archipelago. Yeah, around the Sea of Azov. Yeah, Sea of Azov. Yeah, they took Crimea. What stops them from taking Kiev? I wonder how far Kiev is from the Russian. Oh, okay, I see the map in front of me right now, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. There's so many smaller cities in Russia. There's this one that I'm seeing. It's called Kursk and Bairansk and Rostov. Damn, but damn son, who knows what's going to happen in the future? But I really hope that there's not going to be a full-blown war between these major countries, and Ukraine in the middle is going to get completely crushed. I have a feeling, if war does break out, and the talk of so many refugees moving to Poland, that's also scary. The European continent is on the boil. Now, moving on to some news from the economic front. Foreign portfolio investors have been moving out of the Indian market, and this is probably due to this is actually due to the share of foreign portfolio investors. This is actually due to the federal move on monetary easing. The interest rates are increasing, and people are moving towards out of the Indian stock market and moving their money out. I think somewhere around how many crores? 44,000 crores? Yeah. Foreign portfolio investors pulled out rupees 44,000 crores from financial services and software sector during the quarter, while investing 20,000 crores in retail. Holding of foreign portfolio investors in companies listed on National Stock Exchange stood at rupees 53 lakh crores as of December 31st, 2021, a decrease of 1.67% from 54.6 lakh crores as on September 30, 2021. So foreign portfolio investors are taking money out from the market. However, there is a silver lining. Retail investors, Indian investors, and mutual funds are creating a cushion for the foreign portfolio exit impact, raising holdings to a record high. So more and more retail investors from India are investing in NSE listed companies. which is a good sign because Atmanirbhar, we have to be a little more dependent on our own capital rather than being dependent on how the US market moves. And these things can be quite complicated and based on a lot of speculation. However, some of the thumb rules remain that if share of foreign portfolio investors in listed companies is on the decline amid indications that the United States Federal Reserve is likely to tighten the monetary policy and hike interest rates. So there is lesser money in circulation, and because of higher interest rates, and because of that, money is being taken away from the Indian market. But thanks to retail investors, the shock is not as much. So this is a report by George Matthew and Sandeep Singh from the Indian Express. Retail investors and domestic mutual funds are increasing their presence in companies listed on the NSE, even as foreign portfolio investors are exiting from Indian stocks. Despite a decline in key indices, the share of retail investors, individuals with up to 2 lakh shareholding, rupees 2 lakh shareholding in companies listed on the NSE reached an all-time high of 7.32% as on December 31st, as against 7.13% as on September 30, 2021. So, foreign portfolio investors are reducing, but domestic investors are increasing. As a result, the value of retail holding in listed companies touched an all-time high of rupees 18.98 lakh crore from rupees 18.16 lakh crore in September 2021, an increase of 4.54%. This was despite the fact that Sensex and Nifty declined by 1.48 and 1.50% respectively during this period. The share of high net worth individuals with more than 2 lakh shareholding in NSE listed companies also reached an all-time high of 2.26% as on December 31st, 2021, from 2.12% on September 30, thus taking the combined retail and HNI high net individual share to also an all-time high of 9.58% according to PrimeInfobase.com, an initiative of Prime Database Group. Simultaneously, the share of FPIs in listed companies is on the decline amid indications that the US Federal Reserve is likely to tighten the monetary policy and hike interest rates. According to Pranav Haldia, MD Prime Database Group, net outflows from FPIs of 38,521 crores during the quarter resulted in FPI share declining to a 9-year low of 20.74% as of December 2021 from 21.46% as on September 30, 2021. Even a marginal decline in the percentage of FPI holdings can have a big impact on Sensex and Nifty. Quite fascinating. With investors channelizing funds through SIP, systematically invested plan, schemes of mutual funds, the share of domestic mutual funds in companies listed on the NSE continued to rise and reached 7.47% as of December 2021, up from 7.36% in September 2021. This was after 5 quarters of consecutive decline from March 31st, 2020 to June 30, 2021. The share has increased on the back of net inflows by domestic mutual funds of a huge rupees 51,000 crore during the quarter. A lot of you must be investing in SIPs, so you've been contributing to this rise. In value terms too, the holding of domestic mutual funds went up by 3.26% to an all-time high of 19.36 lakh crores as of December 2021. From 18.75 lakh crores in September 2021. Retail investors have been pumping money into equity schemes of mutual funds in the last several months. Retail investors and mutual fund share is at 14.79%. Quite sizable. The share of LIC, the largest investor in Indian stocks across 278 companies, where its holding is more than 1%, declined marginally to an all-time low of 3.67% as on December 31st, 2021, from 3.69% as on September 30, 2021, from an all-time high of 5% as on June 30, 2012. LIC's holdings have been going down. Okay. LIC is, damn man, it has a lot of clout. However, in value terms, it reached an all-time high of rupees 9.53 lakh crore in the quarter ended December 2021. So in terms of the value, it reached an all-time high, but its total share has decreased from 5% to 3.69%. LIC also continues to command a lion's share of investments in equities by insurance companies. LIC holds 77% share. Interesting. Share of insurance firms as a whole declined to a 6-year low of 4.79% as on December 31, 2021, down from 4.81% as on September 30, 2021. In rupees value terms, though, it went up 1.3% from the previous quarter to an all-time high of 12.42 lakh crores as on December 31st, 2021. Man, so many numbers. Share of domestic institutional investors. Okay, so foreign institutional investors are called FIIs, and share of domestic institutional investors, DIIs, which includes domestic mutual funds, insurance companies, banks, financial institutions, pension funds, etc., as a whole increased to 13.22% as on December 31st, 2021, from 13.12% as on September 30, on the back of net inflows from domestic institutional investors of a huge rupees 66,262 crores during the quarter. In value terms, DII's holding too went up to an all-time high of rupees 34.27 lakh crores as on December 31st, 2021, an increase of 2.48% over the last quarter. The total institutional share, FPIs and DIIs, also declined to 3-year low of 33.95% in the quarter ended December 2021, down from 34.59 quarter ended September 2021. Interesting. A lot of numbers, a lot of sense to be made of, but the point is that the interest rates and monetary policy of the Federal Reserve in the United States is getting tightened. So there is lesser liquidity in the international market. However, domestic institutional investors are, and also high net individuals are increasing. So I don't know if this is a good sign or a bad sign, but I definitely feel on a subjective basis that more Indians are investing through SIPs, and at least our companies listed on the National Stock Exchange are becoming more dependent on domestic institutional investors rather than foreign institutional investors, which I feel could be a good sign, because the money stays in, it doesn't go out just because the interest rates are fluctuating in a different country. We don't really have that much of a say on the interest rates of the United States, but our government has more control over the interest rates decisions in our country. So yeah. On similar lines, the finance minister Nirmala Sitharaman gave an interview in which she talked about how the government is prepared to deal with all kinds of risks that may arise out of global developments, including those that may crop up due to the US Federal Reserve's decision to roll back monetary easing. In a post-budget interaction with senior executives from Indian industry, Sitharaman said that the government would do everything to deal with these situations to ensure that the domestic economy does not suffer. She was speaking at an event organized by industry body FICCI. What I would seek, quote, what I would seek from India Inc., Indian companies, is it's time now for us as Team India to rise. We are such a juncture. Oh, this is written wrong. We are at such a juncture where revival of the economy is very clear. All of us say it, see it, and also feel it. It may not be equal across the board, yet it is observable. This recovery is going to take place India. This recovery is going to place India as the fastest growing economy among the larger economies, and that would continue even the next fiscal. She seems optimistic. That's a good sign. To ensure that the economy continued to grow, the Indian industry must ensure that the country does not miss the growth bus this time, Sitharaman said, adding that the country had missed an opportunity post the global financial crisis of 2008. In another post-budget interaction with the industry body ASSOCHAM, Sitharaman said that the central government would bring up the issue of including aviation turbine fuel at the next meeting of the GST meeting. Aviation turbine fuel is not part of the GST right now, and so isn't like normal fuel, as far as I know. Responding to questions and suggestions put forth by SpiceJet founder Ajay Singh, the finance minister said rising global oil prices were not a concern just for the aviation industry but for the entire economy. On Singh's request that the industry be given the status of priority lending like the infrastructure sector, Sitaraman said that she would have a word with the banks. The banks are the institutions that give money to the companies, and this is very interesting. So, infrastructure has been given the status of priority lending, and now aviation is also wanting to raise more money from the banks. What are your thoughts on that, man? I feel like the aviation industry is always under pressure. It's such a crazy industry to be in. Reminds me of Vijay Walia and Kingfisher Airlines. How many of you have flown the Kingfisher Airlines? I did back in 2008 or 9, somewhere around that time. And dude, that was a really good airlines, man. I mean, it went down because it was so good, I guess. I will always remember the dessert that they had served. It was some like truffle chocolate stuff. So good. Oh my god, delicious. But yeah, let's hope our economy gets better so that more people make more money and India becomes stronger. So, moving on, I would want to end this podcast with something that I started the podcast with, which was a tribute to the great Lata Mangeshkar, the singer who has inspired so many Indians and who actually sang one of my favorite songs, which we played in the early parts of this podcast. And there are so many writings about her in the newspaper today. Maharashtra has declared a public holiday. A lot of people have been inspired, affected by her death. I mean, oh, dude, that sounds so wrong. But a lot of people have been really like, people loved her so much. And yeah, it's been an emotional ride for a lot of fans. So there is one article in particular that I would want to read, which is written by Mrinal Pandey, who is a former chairperson of Prasar Bharati. It says, Lata ji, she became the female voice of a newly independent country. Through it all and till the end, she also remained her own person. Quote, like art, revolutions come from combining what exists into what has never existed before. End quote. Gloria Steinman. Lata was one of the three daughters born to a well-known performer in Marathi theatre, Dinanath Mangeshkar. Her father recognized her talent early on and began training her when she was only 5. Her younger and very talented sister Asha Bhosle told the Dogri poet Padma Sajdev later how their lives changed when their father passed away suddenly. The eldest, Lata Didi, was only 13. The family first went to stay with their mother's family in Thalner village in Dhule, then moved to Mumbai to a small house in Nana Chowk. Lataji's initial years in the Mumbai film industry of the early 40s were full of struggle. Music directors used to the loud and somewhat shrill and nasal voices of singing stars from courtesan families were reluctant to give the frail teenager a chance for playback singing. They found her voice, quote, too thin. A person less in need of money may have argued and told them that screen voices needed to be more natural and fluid in the age of new recording technology. But Lata's overwhelming need was to earn enough for her family of 3 siblings and a widowed mother. So she played Eliza Doolittle to their Professor Higgins for a while. I don't know what that means. So she played Eliza Doolittle to their Professor Higgins for a while. Flexibility is something young fatherless children learn early on in life. Lata did too. But like a true singer, even as she adapted to the composer's demands, she kept alive her classically trained real voice and soon rose to be the patron saint of the new female voice of independent India. While her first hit song, Aayega Aane Wala from Mahal, she was no longer the awkward in-between singer. Even the great Bade Ghulam Ali Khan Sahib is reported to have said of her that ever since he heard her sing in Raga Yaman, he forgot his own rendering and that the girl just never goes off key. जब से इस लड़की का यमन कान में पड़ा है मैं जब से इस लड़की का यमन कान में पड़ा मैं अपने वाला यमन भूल गया कम वक्त कभी बेसुरी ही नहीं होती. Another great composer of film music, Naushad, wrote about her. Watch her voice leap up like a ball of fire. शोला सा लपक जाए है आवाज़ तो देखो. In the late 50s, Lata Mangeshkar was an undisputed star singing for all renowned composers. Shankar Jaikishan, Naushad, S.D. Burman, Lakshmikant Pyarelal, Hemant Kumar and Madan Mohan. She sang some of the biggest hits of Madhubala in Mughal-e-Azam, including the timeless Mohe Fangat Pe Nandlal. Her long and distinguished career is not a tragic tale of continuing to shoulder the burden of someone else's idea of how a woman should sing. She was a genuinely many voice singer. She was a genuinely many voice singer who considered it an asset to be able to sing for a Madhubala, a Jaya Bachchan, and even a Preeti Zinta. Hers was a voice of a simple but grand inheritance from Marathi theatre. Also, a realization of the paternal dreams and aspirations she had imbibed as a young girl. She was a rock to her family till the end. Still, it would be wrong to pin her down to a single identity of a grand dowager queen of music, all white saris, and an isolation of fervent religiosity and meditational silences. True as an individual, Lataji remained fiercely protective of her private life, but she was very much her own person. She did not follow the usual pattern of marriage, children, and the possibility of a lifelong contention with a male who felt his masculinity threatened by an eminent wife. She chose instead to sing as when and how she wished, and maintained her personal relationships with various men and women she cared for. She had little interest in the theatrics. She had little interest in the theatrics. Her love for all things, from diamond jewelry to devotional music, was not a put on act. Those aesthetics came naturally to her like so many of our great musicians. But one admires her for, even as she pursued her music, rightly demanding that musicians be paid royalties, not be sent off with one time payment. If this created some disaffection between her and a few big ticket male singers, so be it. Her innate understanding of her self worth remained subtle and capacious till the very end. Another lovable part of Lata Mangeshkar's life was her deep, genuine love for cricket. In the cricket establishment, she found the action man dimension, perhaps of a father she had lost early in her life. Stories about her romantic dedication to one such legend were also rife over the years, but she chose not to marry for reasons we will never know. The truth or otherwise remained between them. She never cared to discuss it publicly, and none of the columnists and society reporters dared ask her about it. She did make clear that she did not wish to be reborn, ever, and that her favorite poet was Mirabai, who sang, My, kaise jiun re, oh my mother, how can I survive? One should gracefully accept sorrow like happiness, she said in one of her last interviews to a Mumbai daily. One should gracefully accept sorrow like happiness, she said in one of her last interviews to a Mumbai daily. This was worth repeating. Of late, one sees a sudden swell in those who claim to have known her over the years and emphasize how she sang because Veer Savarkar urged her to sing, or that singing a song like "Ae Mere Watan Ke Logo" was an ideal public display of true Rashtra Bhakti. From what one gathers about this unusually gifted singer, she abhorred histrionics or public displays of love or hate. She was among those like George Bernard Shaw who believe that patriotism is basically a conviction that the best country is the one that one is born in. Professionally and personally, the marvelous weight of the pleasure her singing gives embarrasses hyperbolic tributes. Certainly, obituaries will call her the last of a kind, the Sur Saraswati in Hindi film music, or the greatest female singer in the Bollywood firmament. For once, they will not be soppy cliches. For once, they will ring true. Whew. This has been quite heavy, and yes, for all the fans of the great Lata Mangeshkar for so many decades, ma'am, wherever you are, may your soul rest in peace, and may you keep inspiring future singers, artists, And your song "Ae Mere Watan Ke Logo," thank you so much for that, because that's a beautiful song and it's a beautiful tribute to all the martyred soldiers and all the soldiers who fight for our freedom, who fight for our country, who make sure that we never plunge into anarchy. I hope that your legend lives on, and I want to salute you, and I want to salute all the law enforcement of our great country. Signing out of the NancoVerse podcast, I hope everybody stays happy, keep smiling, keep hydrating yourself, and I want to wish everyone a great, great, great week ahead. It's Monday, and yeah, much love. It's been a very heavy podcast, but I really hope you enjoyed. If you guys like the content, please do consider hitting the subscribe button. You can also find the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So search for the NancoVerse podcast and keep supporting. Thank you so much, and have a great, great, great day ahead and a great life. Signing out.